Hi everybody, Andrew Smith here, and in this video I want to share with you 3 ways that you can effectively answer questions at the end of a presentation. So the other day we had a speaking lesson in our speaking program, We Speak Business Unlimited, and the topic was dealing with questions at the end of a presentation. And this is a really difficult kind of thing to do for most non-native English speakers and business English learners, because not only do you not really know what questions you're going to be asked, but there is an extra kind of added pressure that we have and we feel when we are giving a presentation, because we know that everybody's eyes are locked on us and everybody is listening to every single word we're saying. So most people feel shy and uncertain because they worry that they might not answer the question effectively or not. And if they don't, that might rub off on their career or how the audience see them or how their colleagues or boss even see them. So in this video, what I really wanted to do was not just to give my advice, but to also share with you some of my students' advice about what they and I would do when answering questions at the end of a presentation. So the first thing, or the first tip I would give you, is to make sure that you listen to the entire question. That's right, make sure that you listen to the entire question. Now you might be thinking, well, I always listen to the entire question. And my question to you is, do you really? Because from my experience, what I've seen is that when a non-native English speaker is listening to someone else ask a question or speak, I notice that when they hear a word or a phrase that they don't understand, they latch on to that word and phrase. And when they do this, they actually end up missing the rest of the question because they are so fixated on that word or phrase that they didn't understand. They're trying to figure out what it means. So the most important tip, or one of the most important tips, is to make sure that you listen to the entire question so that you understand. So if somebody asks you a question at the end of a presentation and they use a word or a phrase that you just don't know or didn't quite catch, forget about it. Ignore it and listen to the rest of the question. There will be a higher chance of you understanding the question if you just forget the word or phrase that you didn't understand, and if you listen to the whole thing, rather than if you were just fixated on that word or phrase that you didn't know. So that would really be the first tip. Now, another great way to check that you have understood the question correctly is to paraphrase or to ask clarifying questions. Paraphrasing is when we use the other speaker's exact words and we form it into a question. And clarifying is when we ask questions to make sure that we have understood correctly. So examples of this could be, when you say X, do you mean Y? Or what do you exactly mean when you say X? Or another way is you could say, if I understand correctly, what you mean by X is... And these are really, really great questions to ask at the end of the presentation, because first of all, it shows that you have a genuine interest in their question. And second of all, it just gives you and enables you to understand the question more effectively and more thoroughly. So tip number 1 is to ignore any words or phrases that you don't understand and listen to the whole question to try and gather the context, and to paraphrase and ask clarifying questions to check your understanding. Now, the second tip is to ask open questions. So in English, we have 2 different types of questions. We have open questions and we have closed questions. Now, closed questions are questions that will probably have just a yes or no answer. For example, are you a man? Yes, I am. Are you a teacher? Yes, I am. Do you work here? No, I don't. These are closed questions. They usually only require a yes or no answer. Now, an open question is really more about the feeling, right? The meaning. So when we ask an open question, the answer usually requires more than just a yes or no answer. An example of an open question could be, how do you like your new job? Or you could say, have you traveled far in that new car yet? Or you could say, what are your thoughts on that new colleague that joined us last week? So you see here, open questions require more than just a simple yes or no answer. And open questions are great to ask at the end of a presentation. And this is for two reasons. First of all, again, it shows the audience and the person asking the question that you have a genuine interest in their question and you really want to understand it as best you can. But another reason why open questions are great is because it buys you more time to think about a really good answer. So when you are typically asking open-ended questions, the other person is going to be giving a bit more of an in-depth response. And this will give you more time to not only understand the question better, but it will give you more time to think about a great effective answer. So tip number 2 is to avoid asking close-ended questions and to focus more on asking open-ended questions. Now, the third tip is really kind of a controversial one, and maybe some people might disagree with me on this, but from my research and my background, I really think that this is a valid point. And the third tip is be honest if you don't know the answer to the question. Or be honest if there is somebody else in the room or in your company that could answer the question better. And this is kind of a controversial point because people tend to think that, well, if you're presenting something, you should know the answer to every question. And in my opinion, that's complete rubbish because the audience don't always ask questions, about your presentation specifically. They might ask a slightly different question about a slightly different topic. And maybe you just don't have the knowledge or the experience. So really, if you don't understand or if you don't know the answer to the question, be honest and be upfront about it and just say, hey, I'm sorry. So you first apologize, I apologize, or I'm sorry, I really don't know the answer to that question. And then say something like this, I don't want to answer a question that I don't have enough knowledge on. And when you say that, the audience will really appreciate and respect you a lot more because they kind of think, well, this guy or this woman really cares about answering my question in the most effective way possible, that they've been honest with me and told me that they can't do that, so they're not going to do that. So when you are more open and honest about not knowing the answer to the question, most people think that the audience will view this in a bad way, but as a matter of fact, they're actually going to appreciate and respect you a lot more for being so truthful. Now, like I said at the beginning, another tip or another thing that you could do is perhaps somebody has asked you a question and there is somebody else in your company, perhaps your colleague or your boss, that will be able to answer that question better. And in that case, you can just, again, be upfront with the person who has asked the question. Just say, hey, I don't have a great deal of knowledge on this subject, but my colleague Amy is an expert in this area. Or my colleague Amy could help you out a lot more. Why don't you speak to her after the presentation? Or I could give you her email address if you like, and you can email her with your question. So, that really is the most important part. Be honest. You're not expected to know the answer to every single question in the world. You're not an encyclopedia. And if it is your area of expertise, then of course you can answer it. And your answer shouldn't be long-winded. It should be very short, concise, and to the point. And then you should ask a follow-up question to see if there is anything else they need or would like to know. But if you really don't know the answer to the question, be honest and upfront and just say so. Or tell them somebody else who might know the answer or who will be able to answer the question better. So the 3 tips that I have for you in this video for answering questions at the end of the presentation are, first of all, listen to the entire question and forget about any words or phrases that you don't understand. Second, ask open-ended questions as opposed to close-ended questions, because this shows that you have more of an interest in what the person is saying and it buys you more time to think of an effective answer. And third and finally, and most importantly, be honest. If you don't understand the answer to the question or somebody else can answer it in a better way, just say so, smile, and then continue and move on to the next question. Now, if speaking better business English or speaking better English at work is something that is important to you, then I have something that I think you're really going to love. I have a program called We Speak Business Unlimited, and in this program, business English learners and business professionals from all around the world gather each day where we come together and we practice our English speaking skills for work. In these classes, we talk about business-related topics, common and typical business functions, and we also talk about global news as well. And from my experience, most of my students really need help with their speaking, because this is what we do on a daily basis in the office. And you can join our program for a very, very cheap price. All you need to do is click the link in the description box to learn more, and you can click the button at the top of the page to sign up for the program. And if you like, you can also go to our feedback page where you can see what other students have said about our program in their own language. So the link to join the program will be up in the description box. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.